Hey, welcome back to another installment of Shop Talk Tuesday. Hey, I'm Justin from Anoa Guy Bicycles, and this is my garage shop. And this is Tuesday. If it is Tuesday, it's Shop Talk Tuesday. We're an opportunity for you to hang out with me in my shop and kind of see and explore what behind the scenes of your local bike shop is for the most part. My business is just a little bit different, but kind of the same kind of concepts behind that, as well as those who are actually in the industry, working in the bike shop as a mechanic or a bike shop manager, owner, as well as more than welcome. We are definitely a safe space for those who want to just hang out and talk about bike stuff, bike industries things. We'll review some of the latest topics, news, or the latest, I guess, installments of what's going on in our As the Wheel Turns, So the Days of Our Rides soap opera of news titles, and kind of just navigate through that and see if how it affects either corporate down to just a little guy like me in the garage doing my own thing. I got Bob, the bike rep, with me. If you see me in the vertical, he is right over here. I can't move it from there. In any case, did a little bit of different setup, but anyway, here we are. It's Tuesday, and we got all sorts of crazy stuff going on, as well as normal stuff that goes on, and we're going to talk about a few of those things. And what I found out within the industry that it is fall, it is in November, and a lot of our markets are going into the colder season. Today I'm very lucky. I got the garage door open. It's going to be in the 70s today. I am definitely going to go for a ride because this week is probably the last 70-degree days we're going to have for a while before our cold hits this weekend. So I'm going to get there on my butt and ride as well I did yesterday. So you'll see a short on my YouTube channel seeing me going for a ride and sweating it out. As bike mechanics, we don't get to ride as much as we would like because we're actually fixing your rides if you're the avid cyclist, and so you can ride as much as you can within your schedule. But in any case, we do love to ride them, of course, because we work on them, but sometimes we have a little bit of burnout from doing both, and we just go do other things. Hopefully it's productive other things other than maybe gardening, that kind of deal. But we're going into the fall season, so we want to talk about some of the winter things, off-season kind of opportunities for a lot of us to kind of, take a part of, and knowing that cycling just does not end when the temperatures get too low. A lot of people like to shut that off and go do other things. Here in Colorado, people have a lot of opportunities to do a lot of other things like skiing, snowboarding, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, snow camping, hiking in the winter, all sorts of winter activities in our little wonderland here in the mountains. But not everybody is fortunate as us, and I lived in an area where it wasn't, so cycling was a huge thing in the wintertime as well. So feel free to ask some questions in the chat, whichever side you're seeing it on, and if you're watching this on the replay, please feel free to put in some comments to keep the conversation going. This is basically, hopefully, a safe place for all of us just to hang out, jibber jabber, and go through our cycling experiences and so forth. But in any case, I'm just kind of mad dash got things set up, so hopefully you can hear me okay. Hopefully you can see me okay. Try to do a little different format. There is a vertical version of this going simultaneously. Therefore, that's why you probably see two notifications from YouTube. But if you're in a vertical world, you got that opportunity. And I have, the standard, as some of you are seeing me now. This is all going through a platform called Streamyard, and they've been doing a lot of updates and so forth. I'll get to them in a little bit. I have a little funny story about their kind of thing as a bike mechanic navigating through YouTube, right? I mean, it's a journey for all of us here and everywhere in between. In any case, before we get started here, I would like to bring up somebody or our actual sponsor of today's show. And if my computer will work. In any case, This is a great trusted partner from Noah Guy Bicycles. You can find their information as well on my website, and this is what I found by using them in my own service department.
Bicycle Wheel Warehouse in California has an excellent selection of wheels to choose from that are pre-built, or also you can have them custom built up to various sizes. You can reach out to them directly if you have something unique like the 650 wheel or a different style of hub. Therefore, it makes it an excellent bike wheel set company that actually provides good wheel sets without breaking the bank. You will find them being very trusted and shrewd. They really hold up under a lot of different riding conditions and so forth. It takes the standard old school wheel building practices and puts them in a better format. But in any case, this is a wheel set you'll be really love to have. It'll perform for you for a long period of time, and the quality and the attention to detail is superb. You'll find information about this company in the description below, with also my personal coupon code. I hope you find a good wheel set that works for you.
They're actually a really good outfit. They're based out of California, as you probably just heard. You can customize different wheels, hubs, spokes, spoke nipples, and rims to whatever kind of riding you're doing, either from gravel, road to mountain, old school mountain too. What's really nice about them is they have rim brakes for a lot of those that are still indulging into the older bikes and having some really good fun with those. I'm hoping to feature a set of 26-inch wheels on a Klein full suspension. I got the bike basically because of the pretty paint job, but hopefully we'll have that coming in fruition in a couple weeks here. But in any case, let's just dive into the chat, see who is talking and talking. All right. Dave Elon and 8837. Thank you for chiming in from Eugene, Oregon. Oh, beautiful place up there. Took a road trip years back, several decades back of Oregon, and your coastal line is just hands down to die for. It's beautiful. A lot of it seems to be untouched and just really nice. I was just with the wrong person when I was taking the road trip with. But in any case, different side story, different note, different marriage, whatever. In any case, but that didn't make me have any hardships about actually Oregon. So thank you for joining, and I hope you enjoy the show. Heavy Metal Cycles, welcome back again. Down in your neck of the woods, Austin, Texas. Yes, your area is probably getting just perfect weather, temperature riding, barring any kind of hurricane type of faux pas or weather, being drawn off the Gulf. But hey, I hope you're able to get all ready for your cycling season. And I'm sure your repair load is probably starting to increase going into the holidays. But I do have a question for you, those in the southern states. Do you really have a Christmas rush on bicycles per se? Because here in the traditional, I wouldn't say traditional, more in the northern side where we actually have a cold cycle and the seasonality gets really cold around Christmas, we don't really have much. I mean, we sell a few units, but it's always been kind of slow. And for me, coming from the cycling industry, going into a big box store, a big Five Sporting Goods where they had a Black Friday was totally an eye-opener. People are spending money, but just not on bikes up here. So I was just kind of curious if you guys have a good strong following of Christmas bikes underneath the tree kind of thing. Just kind of a question there for those who are in the warmer areas down around Christmas time, because we're right on the cusp of that. In a couple weeks, it's just a complete, the mess between Thanksgiving, well, in the States anyway, Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and the whole Christmas roller coaster ride. We personally have a couple birthdays in there that kind of adds to the mix of stress, and we try to spend time with family and so forth. So we're going to do as much as we can as family time as well. I hope you do too in your neck of the woods. Precision E-Bike, thanks for joining. That's Josh. If you don't know him in my local area, he's about 10 miles north from me, and he does e-bikes, services them, sells them. He's been doing e-bike stuff for 20 years. He is my go-to for any information about e-bikes, between how they work, how they're tested, what's good, what's bad. He's your go-to. So yeah, thanks Josh for chiming in. I also have a featured video of him in a shop in my video library. So if you want to sniff out his little thing and gig going on, definitely give him a look for sure. Awesome. And top of the morning, sweet out today. Yes, it is nice. I hope you get a chance to go ride there, Josh, as well. Might see you out there on the bike paths. All right. Oh, do the most. F9M. Yeah, thanks for chiming in. Are there any BMX skate parks out there in Colorado? I ride BMX. I live out here in San Jose, California. San Jose, very beautiful area. We just watched Lost Boys with my daughter during Halloween. I don't think I don't think that's San Jose, but it's close to that area. I don't know. It's kind of funny. Anyway, I had family who used to live out there. Beautiful neck of the woods. Yes, we do. Actually, a couple of our local parks have skate park designs, concrete and the whole 9 yards, and kids are out there doing their thing. We also, pump tracks are a pretty big thing for here too. So looking for kids, I mean, I grew up in this area a little bit when I was a kid, and there's so much more stuff to do. Like, well, yeah, bike paths to get to where you want to go without putting yourself on, getting hit by a 70s vehicle, muscle car, or you have all these parks that have integrated, cycling enthusiasts, skateboarding, tracks and all that kind of thing. So yes, we do. Probably not as much maybe in your neck of the woods just because of the population density and so forth, but we do have them, and they're actually pretty cool. They're actually well structured, and kids, and what's nice is when I've been in those areas, kids are actually using those and adults alike, so it's kind of cool. Absolutely. Susan, thank you for joining in. Hello from Kingston, Ontario, Canada. Friends from the north, we love you. Please don't hate us, little people, but we love you. I have several individuals that chime in from other countries, and thank you for joining and taking a little snapshot of what we're dealing with here inside the States. It's just, also bicycles don't have borders, really. I mean, our communities really don't kind of have borders. You like to ride bikes, we like to ride bikes. We all learn from some, individual that's either a family member or influence, person that's been a part of our life that taught us how to learn how to ride a bike, and by golly, we all have kind of the same experiences. And that just kind of unifies us as a human perspective, and cycling is something like that we all want to be still be a part of and going forward. I don't have really a shop, really, says Heavy Metal Cycles, just a hobby. Oh, okay. But I hang out at shops, and yes, Christmas is a good around here for retail. Nice. This is a little more outdoorsy, I bet. I mean, you have opportunities for people to go outdoor malls and stuff, and it's not so hot like it in your neck of the woods like it is in summertime. Oh, you got two different chats at once here. Yes, one is a video. It's a new thing I'm leveraging, or just seeing if it's a total faux pas weird. Some people like the vertical stream, so Streamyard, the platform that I use for this particular live, it has both options running at the same time, so therefore you can accommodate both types of audiences. I'm assuming it's a newer feature, so let me know if it's totally distracting, doesn't work, or what have you. I'll just go back to the standard live stream platform out of that. And I just got a notification. Yeah, okay, so I just remove. Oh, sorry, I had a notification here. Okay, hopefully we're still going. Yep, still going. Cool. All righty. Okay, so awesome. In any case, it is beautiful in our neck of the woods. We're going to the tapered season where things start slowing down, and us bike shop people hopefully wrote down enough notes during in season to start forward thinking for next season of 2026. And that's kind of the topic of what's going to talk about that after we hit some of the news cycle stories here. What's 2026 going to look like for me, as well as what I kind of predict my local market, in addition to what the industry is going to be feeling going through the current trends and that kind of thing. So if any of those of you have any extra insights or questions or just want to put in comments, definitely throw in the chat as well as the comments below if you're watching us on replay. If you also are watching this on replay and you're seeing a lot of ad interruptions from YouTube itself, if you watch this live, those are not active. So lucky for you guys are watching me live. You don't get interrupted just with my own little show sponsorships is something. It's so weird. You know, I'm a bike mechanic doing this thing, and it's like I'm still learning and still trying to get used to being what they call an influencer. I don't know who much I'm influenced. What do you think, Bob, the bike rep? Yeah, his days are done. In any case, a sip of coffee. Let's kind of dive into as the world turns, so the days are rides. Opinion piece on the local cycling news and all of those things that we're dealing with on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour. It seems like anyway, that we're actually going through and dealing with. The first topic that I have listed in the description below is tariffs uncertainty eases with the U.S. China reaches a new trade agreement. Everybody's going to definitely take this with a grain of salt, right? Apparently our leader here decided to meet with those over into the Asian market to kind of hammer out some deals. Apparently there has been some talks, which is good because a lot of the cycling industry is dependent on China's manufacturing. Regardless how you feel about it, right, left, or center, it doesn't matter. That's where we are today, and that's how it's going to propel and keep our companies, regardless the companies are either United States or foreign or whatever, keep going because we all leverage them. All those companies leverage them. And therefore, there needs to be less disruption in that pipeline with our current struggles with the local and global economy. So bringing down, splitting the tariffs by half from 20 to 10, which I thought it was more than that. And then for e-bikes, they're bringing it down a little bit. And for the regular bikes, they're bringing down, it looks like about 10% across the board kind of reduction. Well, I don't know. I mean, however we feel about that, it's kind of interesting because a lot of the companies, either they had to pay the tariffs right off the bat or not, or now they are. It's a lot of confusion going on with that perspective of it. But a lot of those companies have, or even corporate stores, have really pushed their prices up for either anticipation or they've already been hit with those particular costs. And when you have that adjustment, how is that going to shake out, especially during the holiday season? I don't see it. But going into 2026, it might be beneficial, at least a little more stable for the bigger companies to make the ones that actually manufacture bikes and have them brought over, because it may not be just the full bike, but some parts go on their bikes come from China. So keeping that in mind, that even though the full bike may not be affected, but the actual some parts of that bike could probably are affected. So when you look at production runs going into 2026, currently now, pricing, what's going to be done. I'm sure they probably already did those decisions, but this will possibly affect the 2027 bike lines and product lists. What my general spidey senses, tingling feeling is about these companies trying to navigate, they're really just going to focus on especially bringing in products into the United States on products that actually they know they're going to have a sell-through and a demand, and regardless of the price might be up. Consumables like tires, tubes, cables, housing, wheels, those kinds of things are still going to be used and leveraged because people are going to still ride their bikes. It's going to be more service oriented, probably going into 2026. So therefore, that reduction may trickle in, but I would say we're probably not going to see any relief on that until 3 to 4 months. And as also, it's all about stability for these companies to make a decision. So if things stay the same without radical changes to that tariff tax, it's gonna help them feel comfortable about making those commitments of larger units and so forth, and hopefully the market for those will open up a little bit better. Is it going to happen? I don't know. What's going to be the mood in 2 weeks from now? It's been such a whiplash on a day-to-day basis. I think they're going to be very reserved, and there's not, whatever the new norm is, the new norm hasn't settled. So regardless of the manufacturers bringing in products into the United States or globally, those decisions and so forth, the trade wars, all those things, our economy, global economy, it's just basically a hot mess. But at least that's somewhat a better direction, and hopefully that's an indicator that some of the stuff will temper down, whatever deals are trying to get out of it. As a local bike mechanic citizen, I don't know, it's kind of like you feel like there's a purpose behind it, or should be, but there doesn't seem to be any logical through action of any of this. So all it seems like it's doing is just disrupting and hurting, especially my cycling community. Case in point, when you go into, I needed valve cores to do a tubeless setup, and I ordered some off of Amazon. You know, got some muck-offs coming in, should be the next morning, did not show up. So I was like, oh, I need to fix this bike today. So I had to go to my local shop here. I had to go do some other stuff there. Anyway, I was dropping off UPS, whatever, same thing on thing. And I was going through the valve cores. And going through the valve cores on muck-off, I was trying to figure out the length and the color, you know, of what this customer may like. And I noticed one of the packages that was like bright pink ones was at $32. And all the other ones were $38. And I know, being an inventory manager, what happened was they had a price increase when the tariffs, and they went up, that kind of thing. And, you know, they were kind enough to give me the lower price point. I just brought it to their attention. It's like, hey, you want to readjust this because of weight and measures in the States. You'll get popped for that, and, you know, you don't want to be in trouble. But in any case, not that I know that even department still exists anymore. That might have been axed. But in any case, so going a long story short is the prices were up in the store, all the accessories, maybe not all of them, but what I saw. And then I went to a different brand store. It was a different brand. And while I was waiting for a part that was being delivered there for a repair that I was working on recently, and I looked at the same, oh, the valve cores, and I pulled that in the price, and it's like, it's the older price on all of these. So the consistency of reflective price increases and decreases is kind of all over the board. And MSRP, manufacturer pricing, is all over the board. So basically what it comes down to, don't accept the price that's in your hand, and I'm sure you'll be able to, like all of us right now, are watching our wallets, and we're going to price everything out. And some shops will price match, corporate stores will price match sometimes, so you can probably find something within a competitor like JensonUSA or something like that, and go, oh, they're selling it for this price, just pull it up on your phone, their price adjusted. The corporate store people really don't care. It doesn't really hit their bottom line. But when you're talking about independent bike dealers, it's kind of insulting in a way, or they take it as insulting. Let's put it that way. It's hard to not, because they're so passionate, but that's a whole different topic. But in any case, that there alludes to this swing back and forth. Is it Is it going to help? Well, any kind of reduction that we have to pay for is definitely going to help. But in any case, that's kind of how we are at looking at it. And have we seen anything yet? Supposedly those tariff adjustments were done yesterday on the 10th of November. We'll see. We'll see. And a lot of, being an inventory manager, this kind of thing, when your prices constantly switch back off all over the place, sucks. It's just hard. It's bad for the consumer. It's bad for the stores trying to sell that inventory, doing all those sticker adjustments. And when you're talking like mass quantity of numbers of units within your shop, even a small shop has a lot of SKUs to adjust, it's a pain in the butt. And we're here in the States, we have what they call weight and measures, and we're supposed to make sure everything that's represented priced correct. In other words, when you go to the register and you ring up that $5 product, it better be $5 or less. Or if it shows up more, you're basically gouging the customer. And even though if they don't know it or not at the time of the transaction, they are at fault as the company. So working at a big box store, that's, we had to do a compliance with that. And I never seen a weight measures individuals come in and audit my store, but I've heard stories. Not recently though. So in any case, that's the premises of our regular retail here at the front lines in United States retail. So looking at that, it's a mess. And chime in if you have any question or have any insights on your perspectives for sure on that. Absolutely. So there alludes to that part. And we're talking about tariffs again because, well, there has been an adjustment. So anyway, all right, I'm gonna jump back into the chat and see where I left off here. All righty. Ooh, you guys are very active. Awesome. You guys just jibber jabber away. That's awesome. Absolutely. Share your experiences. Don't be afraid. Nobody's gonna, be polite, and don't be weird. Don't make it weird. But yeah, it is a safer place. We can chat amongst yourselves and as well as myself. All right. All right, Precision e-bike. Big move for Mr. Josh, man. Precision e-bikes and moving in a couple of miles in January. Dueling up the spaces to 12. Oh, okay. You're going up to 12,000 square foot. Bringing on rental e-bikes. It's nice. And used e-bikes too. Oh, awesome. That is definitely a huge deficit in our market here, is a good, valid place to buy a refurbished or gone through used e-bike. I mean, that's, with anybody out, if you're a consumer, used e-bikes is a lot of mystery. And in other words, it can be costly, like bad battery, bad motor, whatever. Unless it's like a super deal and you're willing to take the risk on that. But providing those service, like sounds like Josh will provide that, a Precision e-bike, or you buy somewhere from like Recycle Cycles locally here, or if you're looking for upper end, the Pros Closets have that service and guarantee, that kind of deal. Whatever in your neck of the woods, that's where you want to vet on e-bikes. If you're buying on an individual basis, try to buy from the original owner. And in addition to, see if you can get it tested before purchasing, if all possible, to make sure you're not having to pay for exorbitant costs for a battery or a motor. So it just adds a whole new layer of watch out, gotcha moments on a bicycle. So anyway, so you're moving. Nice. I hope it's a nicer place. Oh, yeah. I mean, you're moving at the perfect time of the year. January, obviously, is really slow around here, but it is a colossal change to moving to a different. Parker Bikes days, where I started, we moved once in the same shopping center into another part of the shopping center. Then we expanded, and both were just construction, messy. Just it's a lot of work a lot of work, and hopefully you'll be able to get and return on that time investment too, and hopefully it works out for you. Hopefully it's a good location, and I hope either you're renting, the landlords are nice and give you really good pricing, or obviously you've worked all the numbers and everything. So, but again, I'm always an advocate of, like, if you can buy a building, that's the way to go. But in any case, sometimes you don't have the opportunity to do that. So, but hey, be more than happy to check out your new gigs and do kind of a run through and just kind of show off your new location. That'd be awesome. Whenever you're ready, Josh, just let me know on that. Awesome, awesome. Oh, it says, and you're looking for taking on a distribution agreement with the e-bike brand. Yeah, I mean, well, if anything, e-bikes is actually working pretty good, as in the market-wise. We're still selling them here in the States, and I don't think it's slowed down, but I don't think it's going to die like some markets have in the past. And also, there's a lot of shops that have been leveraging the service aspect of it too. So, whatever your scenario is, best of luck on that. Nice. All right. All right, just reading through these. Thank you kindly. I hear you. Feel the fear and moving forward anyway. Some people just want to do that leap. I've talked one shop out of it just because they were so new. And so new to the bike industry as a brick and mortar. I'm like, you really don't want to make that leap yet. I would not put that on your plate to take on, that kind of thing. But if you're more established and you understand what your market is and what you're going to be doing with it, it could work out good for you. Especially, Josh had a Precision e-bike, very small space. So, and e-bikes are big, and a lot of them can, especially if you get to cargo ones and so forth, so you need a little more space to just day-to-day function. But moving up in size could definitely help with efficiency and hopefully more volume. And therefore, you'd bring on maybe a staffer, a part-time staffer or two to help you with that, for sure. Alea SP, thank you for joining in. Hello from Chile. Woo! It must be nice in your neck of the woods. Thanks for the information and your point of view about the cycling industry. This stuff is what we will be facing in the near future, maybe. So it's good to be prepared. Yeah, we're definitely all within the States right now, and also globally. We're all preparing for the worst, hoping for the best, but we're all preparing for the worst. And that's just kind of more emphasized more than that, for sure. All right, support, yeah, nice. Similar economy, indeed. All right, you guys are jibber-jabbering, just eavesdropping on your conversation here, and see if I have any insights I want to abruptly interrupt. Yeah, I would say, Chile. I follow a lot of cyclists on Instagram and stuff that are in the South America, like Brazil, Chile, all those particular areas, which I found to be a huge cycling communities down there, which is awesome. Actually, when I worked at Retail Toolkit, we were software inventory manager. We had one client, I forgot his name, his shop, unfortunately, but he was part of the P2 group, and he was really cool. I've had a couple calls. It was really kind of weird having a couple calls that far away, and in their business model and so forth. And I think they were a truck dealer, and really cool individual, really cool cycling scene down there. It's just really it really warms my heart to see other areas where you wouldn't think I mean, Europe is one thing. It's been known for cycling, but when you're looking at like South America or Australia, New Zealand, and other Asian markets and so forth, it's like it's a global thing. It's like really like hits me in the heart. Like, oh, that's great. Yeah, that's kind of cool. You have group rides. Like I mentioned before, you get us all together, like 50 of us that speak 50 different languages. We go on a group ride. We're all going to have a blast, regardless of getting to speak word of each other's language. But anybody gets in trouble, help each other out. At the end of the ride, have a cup of coffee or what have you, share some croissants, and have a great time. So, in any case, that's it's just really kind of fun how cycling is just such a global kind of thing for sure. Absolutely. So other piece of weird industry news is, and it does relate to the e-bike thing. So Josh's Precision e-bike might be able to chime in on this. This dropped yesterday, and it was let's see if I can pull it up here. It is e-bike company. I'm not really sure. Rad Power faces potential mass layoffs. Shutdown. So this article is based out of the Seattle area, which I'm assuming Rad Power Bikes is in Seattle. I mean, unfortunately, I don't watch a lot of, I don't sell e-bikes, so I'm not really in tune with all these other little companies and how they've been running and so forth, but it doesn't affect me directly. But although I'm aware of them. And also a lot of those brands do reach out to me to, I get emails almost every day from e-bike companies like, oh, we'll send you this, that, and other. I'm like, that's not my niche and that's my expertise. Go talk to Josh. I don't know if he wants that either, but I mean, they're alludes. And Josh, if you ever wanted to feature a bike, we'll do a dual collaboration and hang out, and you can teach me a whole bunch of stuff. That's what it basically is going to boil down to. But looking at this article, it's like turbulent headwinds basically for them. They're laying off a good portion of their staff, 65 employees in January. And here in the States, if you're doing a major layoffs, you have to communicate that to the unemployment offices so they understand there's going to be a certain amount of employees going on to unemployment, and therefore that's where they just can't quietly. It's really hard to quietly lay off a whole bunch of people. Case in point, Amazon. In any case, same market. Damn, that's brutal. Let's see, because talking about how the massive layoffs were in the Seattle area because of Amazon and how it's going to disrupt the local economy, from coffee shops to lunch trucks to everything else in between, bike shops included, because Seattle is a huge cycling scene. They have had some huge issues here. So this article, goes in a little bit into, obviously their backing adjustments and all of that. But when you're doing massive layoffs like this, it may be an indicator that it might be the end of, or the company may be finding themselves into bankruptcy here soon. Hopefully running bankruptcy so they can readjust and readjust their debt, that kind of thing. But apparently there's a huge article on that. Well, Rad Sports has kind of hit the scene during the COVID period, where you see a lot of those bikes hitting the market. I don't know if these are the ones that were trying to do assembly too. There's another company that was doing e-bike assembly in Cali. I think it was California. But in any case, yeah, it's just, it's not shocking, number one. Number two, a lot of these companies have already been laying off or getting out of the market, and the e-bike was so flooded, still kind of is flooded, of all these different brands, especially when we had that pipeline through de minimis of e-bikes going through Temu, AliExpress, and Amazon, just being dumped into the market, where unfortunately they didn't have a lot of support So if you got any troubles with those particular bikes being made too inexpensively, you weren't able to have shops to get parts and so forth to repair those. That was a big pinch point on those. But looking at this particular company having issues, definitely probably got Josh's ears perked up. And various other e-bike companies, bike shops that work on e-bikes and so forth. Because when you're looking at that, that is you start, like, where am I going to go to get switches? Where am I going to get parts? Where am I going to, if you were able to get them before and now you can't, that there becomes a problem servicing the bikes you have in your shop or selling or so forth. Yeah, as in Precision E-Bike was saying, Rad went huge, and sure, they do need to scale back a bit. I don't have no look at the product line, but I'm sure it's probably like too many models like everybody else. But they're one of the largest companies that are in the States. Great support, that's good. And accessories and such. Well, that's good. I mean, you have at least your experiences with them are pretty decent. Hopefully they'll be able to stick around. Yeah, and there was that one, and yeah, there's a assembly plant. Of course, they're not, like, again, the bikes are a lot of parts, and a lot of parts made in different countries and assembled, and that's the best you can probably do right now is do assembly here, maybe some frame manufacturing possibly, or painting, what have you. But looking at that, those particular companies are shutting down, like is it Univega? They're Univega USA. They still have Univega company, and they're still bringing in bikes, but they're built in other countries. But they had an assembly plant here where they'd assemble the bikes. Obviously, everything was built overseas, but they'd assemble them here, so it'd be get the USA stamp on it. That shut down. So it's just not viable to do that. So it's kind of counterintuitive what they were trying to do, and then you have some companies that are going on the other end of it, more politicized. I would say Guardian Bikes, I think, were more politicized about it with their tariff increase proposal. But when there is a silver lining of a couple companies, and one I know, like Steiner, it's a titanium steel company. Let me see if I can pull them up here. They released recently, they're a frame manufacturer, and they do white labeling for steel and titanium custom frame builds. They have their own house brand, but I think here or another article, they were going to expanding, actually add a couple more welders, and they're actually increasing. The part of it, I think it was, they took over the Waterford name, and they're making the frames for them, although Waterford is being owned by a company in Durango, which is having their frame. It gets complicated. Like the company and where they're built, it's like two different things. And they're producing 2,000 frames a year. That's pretty good for a smaller brand that does white labeling. Now, still aluminum and titanium. That's what. Okay, I didn't know they did aluminum, but titanium is a tricky material to work with. So it's completely in the building and steel. So it's that's why you'll have titanium companies like Black Sheep here locally in Fort Collins, or we do have Moots, which is in Steamboat, Colorado, which all does titanium, and Dean as well. I think they're closer to Boulder, not in Boulder, but closer to Boulder, making frames. So titanium is a pretty big, small manufacturer in Colorado. Seeing these guys in California making it work, or at least work for now, that's pretty awesome. I mean, I can't, I like the feel of steel personally, and I'm really interested to maybe get my hands on one of these. I've never gotten one of these, or maybe I have and just not known it because it was a white labeled. Could have been. And this is nothing new either, because you'll have like for example, back in the 90s, there was a company that did a white labeling titanium builds out of Oregon. I think it was in Portland or somewhere in that area. And they were building titanium frames for Le Mans, Gary Fisher's, Bontrager's. Although all those companies had their own welding for steel frames, but the titaniums were subbed out. Case in point, Lightspeed they white labeled a lot of their frames. Like they used to have a Mongoose titanium road bikes, which there's one in the Facebook marketplace right now for around $500, but it does have a Lightspeed, built by Lightspeed sticker on it, not this Scanova or Savania, whatever they called it. It was kind of interesting. I don't remember the name, but they flipped between those two to build the Mongoose frames in the late 90s. It was that kind of thing. So taking a look at that and looking at that article, and having layoffs of the rad sports, which is pretty much a common trend with a lot of companies in the United States as well as abroad. My buddy, he does my front-end website dev stuff part-time, but his full-time real job, the company he works for, they had a huge, massive layoff, and he survived this round, but who knows? So it's kind of the new trend. I wouldn't say new trend, but it's trending and being more emphasized going into the next year or two of just trying to keep the companies going, basically getting down to the point where they could survive this cold winter. And the cold winter, it's like when Game of Thrones winter's coming. It's more than just 1 year. it's gonna be different, and so there are successes, obviously, and some of the front line, I would say, retail, dealing with the customer, because we're very versatile versus the big corporations trying to navigate it. Because if you're only selling like 4 products and you're trying to figure out why you're not selling any of them, that becomes a pretty big issue, that kind of thing too. Any case, that is what I got on the rad sports part of it. Let's see what you guys are talking about. Oh, wasn't Waterford old Schwin Paramount factory? Yes, actually, back in, oh boy, you're jogging an old brain cell of mine. Okay, we were a Schwin dealer back in the 80s and the 90s. My parents, I was one of our first brands, and actually my parents went to Schwin school in Chicago, learned how to put a 3-speed hub together. But in any case, they had the Paramount line. The Paramount line was equivalent to what S-Works is today, as well as the top-of-line Trex, that kind of thing. It was like a subset of bikes that they were making that were built in a different factory too, or made in the United States, where a lot of their stuff was made otherwise. It's like the Paramount in Waterford. It was made in Waterford, Wisconsin. I think that's right. And when they had the big original bankruptcy, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody out there, but one of the Schwin family members, not Eddie Schwin, because he tanked the whole company, but during the bankruptcy, I think one of the extended family members somehow bought it or cut that. It was able to break apart from the bankruptcy and made Waterford bikes, and that was the touring frames, road frames, that kind of thing. And they were being made mostly there, and that carried on to about a year or two ago where Waterford was done. The owners of it are like done, and they sold the name. So yes, there's a long history with Waterford name, and they do make really cool frames, steel primarily. And the new company that I think acquired them, I'm sure you'll see it in Glasgow retailer somewhere, that they are having some of those frames built and coming back to life again. But it's a small niche company. It's kind of like one of those made, like the show made, like really, really small, where a lot of the small manufacturers go, for sure. But yeah, thanks for reminding me, Heavy Minded Cycles. Waterford was a Schwin name. Schwin had some cool stuff. I do keep my eye out on some of those old Paramounts. It puts me back in the day working in my parents' shop. It'd be kind of cool to get my hands on one of the old like 70, 80s or 90s, which is the model numbers. I don't remember what it meant for. It was like PGS model of the Paramount series. They had some pretty cool paint jobs too back in the day, mostly steel frames that I can remember anyway. But, you know. So, yeah, there we are. Okay, going to catch up on chat here. And while I'm doing that, where did it go? Oh, there it is. Shop on Amazon. I do have a Amazon store, like the latest pick, basically, of products that are on sale, that kind of thing, and various other parts and tools and so forth that I suggest using within those particular categories. Check that out. Go through, and even if you don't buy the product that I suggest and you find something else that fits your needs better or your grocery list or whatever you end up buying, I get a little kick. So that's a good opportunity for you to get something and I get something that helps support me doing what I'm doing. Oh, where'd it go? There it is. All right. Oh, so Bob M, TAC, thanks for chiming in. Yeah, it's through the platform of Streamyard where I have the standard live stream, and then there's a vertical live stream, and I was kind of interesting to see how when you launch it, it's like two different streams, but they tie in together. I'm not sure if either or sees each other's chats. So I need to read up on it. I guess I should have read out a little bit more. I was like, oh, it's a new button. I'll click that and see what happens. FAFO, right? Oh boy. Yeah, so I should be able to see both chats in the chat line here because I see both perspectives of it. But in any case, this is very, bike mechanic trying to be a YouTuber. Yeah, talking about the Schwin stuff. Yeah, position you back. Josh, you have a Schwin Super Latour? Nice. I have in my list of bikes to work on to refurbish the frame is a Schwin, what is that? Does it say Paramount? That's I would say a 1998 or 99, look at the componentry group. It has the Reynolds 853 tubing on it. So that's going to be a fun one to clean up. It's bright yellow, so I'm really excited to get the detailing on that to see if I can get it to pop and explode in color, and also try to save it with ceramic coating. It was gifted to me in the sense of, refurbishing it and featuring it on a channel. So we'll see if we can bring it back to life. It's a big one. It's like a 60 or 62. The guy's tall, so unfortunately my legs are not long enough. I'd have to do wood blocks on the pedals to ride it to safely anyway. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Talking to Josh, down tube shifters. I rode on a bike recently that had them. That was going back. That put me back in the day, and also very different. Not as safe though, because you're not looking at the road for a split second. Well, have a good day, Heavy Metal Cycles. Thanks for chiming in. Appreciate it. And hope in your neck of the woods you can keep up with the flow of craziness. There we go. Idaho Fat Tire Bike Fun. Thank you for joining. Good morning to you too. Oh, you have a fat bike season. He has like a good morning from Idaho Falls, Idaho, USA. Fat tire bike season will be here soon. Yeah, I experienced some fat tire craziness in when we lived in Michigan for a brief moment, and they have like races and teams and clubs and everything all related to those fat bikes, and it's kind of cool because they had nothing else really going on for them except for Mount Brighton, which is a molehill. Actually, it used to be a trash dump converted into a ski hill which actually Vail Resorts owns. So in any case, they also in the summertime converted to a downhill run, but it's not much of anything, and that puts a lot of people in to keep cycling, which is kind of cool in their cold winters. But yeah, I would assume Idaho is probably about the same kind of level of craziness and that kind of thing too. But it's they're fun bikes. It's one of those bikes that came out before e-bikes became a huge thing, and before even gravel started kicking out. That was like the big push, and they tried to in the Colorado market, but we didn't sell that many of them because our conditions are really not conducive to it. We have nicer days, honestly, and we don't have lingering snow. Therefore, the fat bikes really wasn't that big. I mean, up in the mountains, that's a different case, but more in the front range area where most of the population is, not the case. So, but in any case, there is different markets for those. And when they first came out, I mean, all the companies made all the different models and all the different kinds and flavors, and then they scaled back. But in any case, like everything else, they balloon it. But there's some. It's kind of funny. You don't see that many in the used market here too. It's not that many. Once in a while, you'll see them pop up. I like the Plus bikes, but those kind of scaled back too. I think the companies realized there wasn't a huge market money makers for them as well. So, in that case in point. All right. Let's jump into, the latest and last one here, the topics anyway, that are in the headlines is, let's see here, go back to bicycle retailer, was Giant revenue down 17%. I talked about this a little bit on Freak Out Friday. And it's basically a release, a quarterly release from Giant, and we should probably be seeing one from Rita too, which is the two big, I mean, Giant is the largest manufacturer in the world. Therefore, when people see any kind of release numbers or news about Giant at all, people perk up because they are the biggest, largest manufacturer in the world of bicycles. And when you look at their numbers, I don't do math with different currencies very well, but their, percentages is down from last year. That's, obviously you could see a lot of that happening, and it doesn't help the Giant dealers. It doesn't help showing and confidence of manufacturing and putting investments into newer designs and all those things. Although some companies try to release new stuff to try to, get people excited about cycling. That's usually like the high-end stuff where, quite honestly, it in this market is going to fall flat. Like, ooh, that's cool, but they only made 5 of them, that kind of thing. Like, Specialized is going to build a $20,000 bike, but they're not going to be hundreds and hundreds of these. And getting them into the United States, they're probably not going to be that many. Reason being is the tariffs are too extreme. So they'll probably put them in other markets. The new checkout came out from Trek, the full suspension gravel bike, for example, and I don't think they made that many of them, and it'd be really hard to find the color and the size, and they have them all in the showroom floors. I don't think they have any in warehouse right now. Either they're waiting for another batch of them to come out in the spring, possibly, or they're just going to see how they hit the market and become a demand. Then they'll have more made, depending how fast that is. But these are all coming from most likely Cambodia, where a facility there is making the Treks at this point. Specialized bikes are mainly coming from Vietnam, and vice versa from both those countries are making various e-bikes and so forth as well. So, and Giant has a facility in Taiwan, of course. They're a Taiwan company, but they do have a warehouse, or not warehouses, but manufacturing done in China as well as other countries too. So, going to the article here, that they're down 17%, which is probably down on top of being down. But they've done some, I think Shimano, they did some staffing, basically streamline their company so they're more profitable, even though their numbers are either flat or down. That's another indicator because they make componentry, and the componentry that goes onto the bikes that are made by Giant. And Giant also just doesn't make their own brand. They make several other brands. And that being said, they also have like mass, dealers here in the States, Giant dealers. Used to be Performance back in the day, but I think they have a couple stores too, but I could be wrong on that, or maybe no longer. But it's not looking good because they've had, unfortunately, this is my opinion piece and all that. So, but they did have some labor issues, which they've actually sent people to the White House or to customs here in states in DC to kind of level out any kind of what they're doing to make it better, humane conditions. Basically, the slave labor thing is basically you owe more money to the company store kind of concept. What they're trying to eliminate, and more international labor law or agreements trying to be upheld. But that did hit them pretty hard to react, as well as Merida, the second largest manufacturer in the world, went ahead of it and tried to do damage control before they got finger pointed at them from United States Customs. But anyways, so yeah, there's so many layers to this, and my goodness, it's like every day there's something new and different, twist and turn that's affecting these companies. So hopefully with the combination of the easing tensions of tariffs with China, in addition to correcting or going compliance with labor situations in foreign companies using foreign work staff, migration and migrant workers, hopefully will make it more right, basically, humane, that kind of thing. Because, these companies are making, even though they're down, they're still making a profit. Although Giant in the past has had some leaked issues of spooling up too much debt. So we'll see. That might be a company may be in a lot more trouble than actually sharing. Obviously, they're not going to share how much of trouble they're in, but they could be a company that it could break up. Like, so big, goes through some kind of whatever their version of bankruptcy, divvied up in different sub companies, that kind of thing. That could be very possible, depending on how much debt that they accrue or have accrued. And we'll see. And being the largest manufacturer in the world, that's going to be pretty disruptive, that kind of thing. So either you're a Giant dealer, which I've heard from some Giant dealers, they go to the ordering portal, B2B site, and there's like nothing there to buy for here in the States. That could be just a move of inventory out of your states because they don't want to deal with the tariffs. The compounding tariffs, like you got the country tariff, then you have the material tariff. That could be a huge thing, preventing a lot of products going into the United States. So the complicity of that leading to the first topic of tariffs, if that gets tempered down and streamlined and less affected to the general public of the United States buying stuff, that might help the economy kind of recover a little bit and have more comfort. But case in point, we just looked at our coffee today, right before we got on to the stream, and our coffee has gone up at least 20%. Or it's the same price and it's smaller volume. Like, I was like, why can't I get my hand in this bag of coffee? Oh, wait, it is 10 ounces versus 12 ounces, not knowing that because the packaging is very, very similar, just a skew smaller. And there eludes a lot of volume companies, products of that nature. You're going to have to keep an eye out, which probably cycling's going to be in the same boat, if not already, for sure, on that perspective. Oh, Bob M. Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't addressed the gravel suspension. I mean, I talked about the gravel suspension for the truck that came out. And I'm not sure if they're using the Cane Creek one or not. But anyway, then I had a custom build about a year ago, and the customer did convert a 26 steel frame, titanium frame, had the back blown out to accommodate a 650B, and he bought that Cane Creek 650B front suspension inverted. It was pretty cool. That fork and design for that would be more all gravel and really bumpy gravel, like moderate single track riding, basically. That's how I look at it. I heard it is pretty cool. I wouldn't shy away from having one if I was doing that kind of riding. But if you're using it for just light, gravel riding, and you're doing more pavement combo, so that therefore is like, do you go to the fork or do you go with a redshift stem, which just gives you enough travel? Because when you put suspension on anything, you add a new layer of maintenance. So, and that means suspension needs to be overhauled, it has to be, oils need to be switched out, seals need to be checked and all that. So you do add a whole new level of complicity to which was supposedly your like hardtail fast gravel bike, mountain bike. That's where like I'm old school. I mean, I started racing mountain bikes when we didn't have suspension. It's just a steel aluminum frame, and you just lose your teeth, your molars got all crushed by doing all the washboards and single track riding. But when suspension came out, that becomes a whole new service level. Case in point, there's a shop in Longmont, and that's all they do is service and suspension work, doing shocks and rear suspension. And they used to be a bike shop, but that's one of those things where even back then, 10, 15 years ago, they branched and that's all they do. It's called Dirt Labs. And Dirt Labs is, pretty sure that's the right name. You can ship their shock to them, they'll overhaul and put it back. A lot of bike shops leverage that service, so they don't do it in-house, they just send it to them, as well as Big Box. REI, I think, landed a contract with them to send their suspension work. Trek, for example, the corporates, they made like 2 or 3 suspension facilities across the United States to support their stores. Although a lot of the shops still just send them to either, used to be QBP used to do them, or Dirt Labs to work on those. So hopefully that clears that up. But going back to the Cane Creek, they make some good stuff. It's a good company. I wouldn't shy away from their suspension to be, for that kind of condition of riding. Personally, I don't do that much riding like that anymore. It's mostly just bike paths and light riding, and I'll show my bike that I'm currently riding or just finished putting back together, and show you what I did, the modifications there in a minute. But yeah, it's a thing. The sell-through for Trek on that full suspension checkout probably be high, but the thing is if they don't make enough numbers, quantity, they're going to get a false sense of, oh, they did really well, we need to make 10x more of those, and then all of a sudden it's flood out. And these are not cheap. I mean, the 3,000 to 6,000, I think, is the price points on them, and it's yeah, that's the norm. But it's definitely light trail mountain biking, basically. Could you do almost the same thing with a good hardtail suspension or something of that nature? Yeah. But the thing is I think the part of that particular frame, if it's a suspension built into the frame versus the seat post, you can still add a dropper seat post to that suspension frame. So that would be the benefit of it. So again, it'd be more extreme riding. It'll be interesting to see how they do in the race circuit this coming cyclocross season, because those things are going to be popping up all over for that. It'll be interesting to see what the outcome on that is. Not that I follow that too closely, but I'm sure you'll see in other social media outlets and people that will probably chime in a little bit more on that for sure. Absolutely. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Bob M. Awesome. Yeah, I got, oh, there's another chat. Interesting. Okay, so the chat thing between the vertical and the horizontal is not the same chat for both. Oh, because technically that would be two different live streams that are currently going on simultaneously, which makes sense. Ish. It's a new feature, so granted. Looks like, oh, I see a little icon here that people are doing the vertical. So I need to be mindful of you're watching this on vertical. So the chat on vertical is this. That makes it kind of weird in my perspective, or whoever's doing this perspective. Okay. I think. So anyway, if you guys are watching this, ping in and say, you know, if you're watching on this vertical, just say yes. If you have access to chat, like on the vertical, just want to see how many people of you, because it doesn't, I mean, I have the same count number on both of who's watching. If you can, that'd be great. In any case, help a mechanic out to do YouTube. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Susan, thank you. Okay. And the question is like, is that your preference too? I mean, there's like a big push for vertical streaming from YouTube. Oh, you got tabs for both. Well, that makes it complicated. Thanks, Bob M, for chiming in. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Some people I like to see the horizontal because most of the stuff I watch is either on my laptop or some people watch this on their TV. If you were just having it in the back room and you had your earbuds in, you're listening in, working on bikes at your shop, that kind of thing, or having on it doesn't really matter. My consensus was most of you are just listening in anyway. Really don't need to see so much visual per se, but I do have analytically a pretty decent volume of people watching on a computer, tablets, and also TV, which is crazy. Anyway. Bob M for tech support. Yeah. Yeah, if you're riding, Bob M, referring to the suspension on gravel bikes, if you have a lot of roads and you're doing a lot of dirt roads and roads with swashboards, my goodness, yeah, that might save your teeth for sure. Watching on the big TV, Joe. Oh, yeah, in your shop. Hey, Joe, another brother from the north. Thanks for chiming in, and hopefully you had a really good custom paddles sales. His channel's really cool. He's about ready to do his winter riding. He has a couple of videos of a Canadian riding in the cold winter. It's enjoyable to watch. Very, very pleasant, for sure. Oh, yeah, Josh, you from position. You like the full scale on the laptop? Look over once in a while. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the kind of I guess the concept of what it's evolved to. Evolved to, like, I'm working on something and I'm usually talking about things, but when I get to the point of showing things off, then you're like, oh, let me take a look what you're seeing. I do the same thing. It's like I'm just lying in the ear while I'm doing other things, and I'm like, oh, wait, I want to see what they're talking about here, and then address that. Oh, studded tire season for you guys. Yeah, studded tires are not, like, in our neck of the woods, unfortunately, not a popular thing because we don't need them. But yeah, I can totally see that. Although Boyd Lake does freeze over, and it'd be kind of fun to have like a studded tire bike race on when it does freeze over, and do that like in January, February. But there's ice fishermen out there, so it'll support the weight, but I don't think any of us really wants to entertain that prospect too much. It'd be really cool if they did a cyclocross race that came off of the trails off of Boyd, or make a trail off of Boyd as a circuit, and then have a part of the circuit go over the lake and have obstacles and then come back. That would be kind of cool. That would be something to see, like land an ice race or something like that. I don't know if there's anything like that in your guys' neck of the woods, but that'd be kind of cool. Be interesting to see if cyclocross comes back, since gravel is still pretty big. They used to have a race series here back in the day. I'm not sure if they still do or not, but there is pretty big gravel ride groups for sure within my area, amongst a lot of people in a lot of the other areas for sure too. Absolutely. Cool. So while I'm here, I'm gonna sit for a little bit. So I'm gonna stand up and do a little show and tell, but I'm going to do a shameless plug first. Actually, I'll do this one first. It was brought to you by Medem Bikes, where you can find bicycles that won't break the bank. Great brands like Univega and Vin Diesel, but give you a good quality, safe ride to be able to do those extended rides and get into cycling. You'll find a link below with added savings to extend that adventure starting now. Oh, hold on. Caught me off guard. I'm working on it. I need to put a longer promo to be able to move my stuff around. Sorry about that. You're going to have to deal with the earthquake here. So just listen and look away. I don't want anybody to go through any kind of epilepsy issue because I'm shaking the camera too much. And yeah, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Super nice out. Very calm, so it's going to be a good day to go for a ride, for sure. And, yeah. So, yeah, you can see my messy bench. I'm still busy with the season, so, which is very fortunate. I'm very happy. Very, very happy. I've had customers continuously pinging me for help, and because they're still riding, which is great. And obviously the weather is conducive to it, and we have had 0 snow. I mean, I think we had like some light flakes at one point, but we typically usually had 1 or 2 snowstorms by this time of year. And we've September we used to, but no longer. That's shifted to be a warmer month now. And October used to be something, but this year nothing. So. Well, we're supposed to see some moisture coming into this next weekend and early next part of the week. So we'll probably see a change in business and people cycling. Today, I'm sure we'll see a whole ton of people out there riding, which is going to be awesome. Saw quite a few yesterday. I only had to do 1 layer, and I was perfectly comfortable. It was in the 60s. Fahrenheit. Today is well into the 70s. In the shop right now, it's 71. I'm actually kind of hot right now. And, no, I'm not that kind of hot, just temperature hot. Anyway, but talking about hot, this is hot, is what I have here. Oh, that's deliberately done. So, oh, Joe, they're already doing a series of cyclocross in your neck of the woods? I guess it would be. It's a little bit chillier up there in Canada. Snow e-bikes are awesome. Just dropped the back. Oh, nice. That would be, I could see that, having an e-bike, fat bike in snow, because sometimes you get too much, it's not packed, and it's like you have to kind of force through it. That'd be cool. Anyway, Buenos Aires, Le Mans, classic, 2001 or 2000 or 2001. They're still doing a 1-inch head tube on these guys, so be mindful of that. Instead have the Icon branded Trek. These were made by Trek. Le Mans carbon fork. It's really skinny. It seems to be doing fine. I don't know if I don't think they had a recall on these, but I've heard people had some issues on the other Icon ones, which are a little bit fatter. What that was or is, to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is it have an aluminum crown, That's where the crown goes onto in the beginning of the fork blade. And the carbon would bond, hopefully you can see this, bond right about here. And the flex between, you can see almost can see the line underneath, but where the flex of the carbon and the stiffness of the aluminum, depending on the paint, would develop look like a crack in the clear coat. And people would freak out like, oh, my fork's falling apart. But basically it's just the flex point of that and the paint that they used. So I have never seen any of them disbond from there. I've seen other carbons disbond over the years, but nothing from the fork in that perspective. But in any case, it doesn't look like this has any issues there. Did have a set of Rolf Vector Comp wheels in red laying around. This actually, I was going to sell them, but it had a repair on one of the sidewalls, it looks like. And it looks like it was professionally done because they look like they hit something and bent in and they bent it out and ground it out smooth. So didn't feel comfortable selling it, but I don't mind. I mean, for me, I'm willing to take the risk of riding on them. So just it was like perfect match, red. Plus, they were missing all the decaling, which is kind of like, if you don't know, especially the front one, even the Rolf name on the hub's worn off or washed off. But in any case. But what I did is I put these wheels on versus they had the Select Bontrager pair. These were a little bit stronger. They held up a little better, deeper dish, aero style. And I went ahead and did Gravel King 26C with tires that fit in here just nicely. And this gives me enough tread for, like, if it snows and I want to have something a little more of a grip, or I'm going to do more dirt road combination or dirt sections or loose gravel after they sand. This is a great tire for that. And granted, it's not as wide as a lot of the new gravel tires, but this basically converts this to a pseudo little to the gravel side. It's like partially that way. So I thought that would be a good one because I have another Le Mans, which is a full carbon, which is kind of more my faster bike, skinnier tires, that kind of thing. So I wanted to make this one kind of not all the way to my gravel bike, but in between. So yeah, I know you're splitting hairs, Justin. This is like nuts. Why are you doing this? Like, because I picked this up for $100 in Las Vegas and I brought it back home. So that's why. And I don't want to sell it because it's my size, and I'm trying to compare the carbon Le Mans for the next year versus the steel Le Mans and see if I can really tell the difference. Not necessarily on my speed and how fast I go on my averages. It's more on comfort. Like, can I get this to feel just as comfortable as my carbon? And, does the feel of steel, the Reynolds 853, feel better or equal to the carbon that they made? That's going to be the comparison between those. As more of materials, because the geometries are pretty close-ish, but it's just going to, that's more of like your, closer to apples than apples. This also does have the Ultegra 9-speed triple. Not that I need the triple where I ride, but these are all in immaculate shape. Whoever had this bike before didn't ride it very much at all. I bought it from the original owner, and they openly admitted, like, yeah, I didn't ride this very much. They bought it and moved to Vegas and quickly got into mountain biking. So, and although there's a lot of great road riding in Las Vegas area, he just didn't get into it. He just got into the mountain biking stuff. So basically it was pretty immaculate. Nothing was worn on it. Just garage wear, basically. There's going to be some bits, better bars, maybe a different stem for fitting, but I figured that. And also, I threw on a Connex chain on there. The other one's all gunky and nasty, so I figured I'd go with a waxed Connex chain. And with my first ride yesterday, it kind of helped shake out, and it got really smooth. And yeah, it's a smooth ride. I mean, a little bit wider tire and knocking down to 80 psi. I mean, it's going to ride like a Cadillac. The geometry is a little bit further out with a rake fork on this one, out of squirrely. So you know, if you find something like this in neck of the woods, they're really good bikes. Hopefully, it's just in better. You know, they're older, so hopefully they're in good shape and not been used too much or not worn or damaged, that kind of thing. But I mean, it does have the original alloy Le Mans seat post, which I might switch out to a carbon, that kind of thing. But other than that, you know, it rides great. And I'll ride my other one today. This is a little bit nicer, maybe go a little bit further. But I wanted to have something that has, you know, the nice knobby tires and that kind of thing for riding. So, you know, because you lose sand on skinnier tires, you kind of lose it, that kind of deal. And it's a safety thing as well, for sure. All right. All right. So, let me do something here real quick. And oh, what did I want? Oh, hold on here. I lost track of what I was doing. What was I doing? Okay. Got it now. Got it. So who's ready for Christmas? Well, if you're looking at kids' bikes, you might want to think about getting them in sooner than later while there's still supplies available. Talking to these guys here. This is another sponsor of I Know a Guy Bicycles. This is brought to you by Medem Bikes, where you can find bicycles that won't break the bank. Great brands like Univega and Vin Diesel, but give you a good quality, safe ride to be able to do those extended rides and get into cycling. You'll find a link below with added savings. Extend that adventure starting now. Oh. This show is brought to you by Medem Bikes, where you can find bicycles that won't break the bank. Great brands like Univega and Vin Diesel. By Medem Bikes, where you can find bicycles that won't break the bank. Oh, they crashed. Oh, everything just crashed. Wow. Okay. Are we still here? Sorry about that. I didn't. Oh boy, that was the first time that everything went totally belly up. Are you guys seeing me? You hear me now? Hear me now? Like a Verizon commercial? Do you hear me now? I just wanted to show this drivetrain, and if you guys are still watching, hopefully. If you can still see everything, let me know. Somebody in the chat, go, hey, I can still, you're back. Something like that. That'd be great. I still see a few. You're still on there. Can you still hear me? Don't lose everything. My live is still pinging. All right. Anyway. Hopefully you can still see me. So this is the drivetrain here. This is the gold-plated Connex chain. And what's nice about Connex is, well, the German steel, you know, all that precision made by Whipperman. And what's really cool is their Connex link. The link on these, you don't need a tool to take the chain on and off. I'm trying to find it. You know, I need to get so blinded by the gold. Okay, so it's this guy right here. And you just have to fold these, and the link takes apart like a quick link, but you know, without a tool, which makes it really good for waxing. So it's easy for a consumer or yourself to take the chain off, wax it, put it back on, that kind of thing. But you know, just look how, and if you could hear how smooth it is. It's just, once that wax breaks in about 5 or 10 miles, it just makes it super smooth, which is one benefit. Quiet, not dirty, which is most 90% of the people out there want. What it does technically lengthens the life of the chain, cassette, chain rings, and jockey pulleys. Save you on your really expensive high-end drivetrain. And even on, drivetrain parts are hard to find, so it'll extend the life of those. So when you do the waxing correctly, and the maintain these is pretty simple. You don't re-wax these every time you ride or anything like that, like our traditional old drip lubes. They do make a drip version, which you go to the second level down and to the big chain ring here. So you have that cross chain thing going. And this is the stuff here. It's as expensive as all hell, but you just need the smaller. This is the big bottle. They make a 2-ounce bottle of it. And you ride this for, those are in the industry and they do wax chains, you understand. This is between 300 to 500. Nobody wants to put a number on it because it all has a variance of your conditions and so forth. But what basically they all do say is once it starts making noise, like your typical chain noise, like squeaking or what have you, sounding dry, that's when you apply this, which is the same materials, tungsten sulfide with paraffin, but emulsified with 10% water, according to Josh at Silica. And what you do is you find your quick link, power link, or whatever link as a reference point, and you just put a drip of this on each cog, and it'll get a little messy, but it's okay because once it dries, it'll flake off. But when you put it on each link, you don't need much of this. And once you're done with that, you just cycle your chain about 10 or 20 times. And what that is doing is manipulating with the angle, pushing that liquid version of the wax into all those crevices and areas that it needs it, and then you let it dry for 2 hours, and all of a sudden your chain is waxed and refreshed. The full hot immersion waxing, once it's done the first time, you can just do the drip after that for probably the rest of your season if you wanted. It's still not as good as the whole hot wax treatment, but it'll keep your ride going until you have time to have that chain back to the shop or waxing it yourself. In any case, that's one of those things. And with the Connex link, and you don't have to use a tool, it makes it easier to take on and off as well. So with the combination of those, this drivetrain, will keep it going longer, and the quietness is just, and the smoothness is just insane. And chains are funny because they technically don't stretch. The pins inside is old, and it gives the appearance of stretching and that kind of thing. Also, there's a break-in on chains too. So once it breaks in a little bit to the drivetrain you have, then it gets like a super high performance level. With the Silica wax and what they are claiming of adding 6 wattage is something that's pretty huge to those who race or are watching all their wattage numbers and all that. So it does have a benefit there for the race circuit. And then if you go into the race circuit, there's different blends, just like ski waxes. They got a chip that's speed chip from Silica, which makes it faster but doesn't last as long. They have an endurance chip, which means it lasts longer but is not as efficient. Then you have all those different various of blends. Vital chains, and that guy, he has, there's a link in my description below. He does all those different blends on Shimano cerams and a couple other different chains. Also, you can send a chain to him to have that treatment done if you want to do that. So I'm going to have a video with him coming out here soon, and also cool stuff. So that's kind of like a sneak peek of what I'm been, emerging with my spare time, which is very little of it. But in any case, that's what we got going on there. Yep, bumpy ride. Oh, I just hit an obstacle. Holy cow, never had that happen. It probably won't be my last. Definitely not my first. See if it does it again here. Guy Bicycles, hanging with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin, the guy in the garage. I do have a garage shop, and you see most of these tools behind me. I want to do a shout out to JensonUSA, which you'll find a link below if you're looking for some good pricing and as well tools to fit or to expand your actual shop at home. Got confused at what background. Hey guys. So this is where we get to the point of heart to heart. What's everybody thinking what 2026 is going to look like for them? Any of you all scared to death or just like, you know, it's going to be okay-ish? Or done pretty well adjusting your business, or shops around you have adjusted their business models where it's conducive to the new market, or actually, I mean, you know, in the cycling industry, you don't make hands over fists of money. It's just, you have to start off. If you want to make $1 million in the cycling industry, you got to start off with 2. So we're not in it for the money, really. Most of us. It's more for a living inside of a passion of riding, or whatever the case, have gotten all of us into the cycling business portion of it, or cycling itself, riding. And a lot of fortunately, the bike shops have been getting a lot of support through service and used parts and used bikes. And a lot of bike shops have never done used, or now leveraging used, and providing lower price points for people to get into cycling, being reflective of our current economical state. And it doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon for a lot of us. So therefore, the bike shops have, a lot of them, even including corporate stores, have been leveraging that portion. I'm seeing a lot of discounts from corporate as well as bike shops alike of doing their off-season sales for the tune-up packages and so forth, which is, you know, some shops are okay with that. They do that every year. Their communities are looking for that. Some shops are like, we don't ever discount our labor ever. You just get better quality or faster turnaround time. It all depends on the market. So I want to be looking for a lot of discounts, unless you'll see it more on the corporate store side, because they need that cash flow going to help them offset their thousands of $10,000 bikes that are sitting on the floor, not moving. What I've seen more push for independent bike shops is more used bikes and sell prices and trade-ins and trade-ups and all those more recently, because that's become more of a profit point for them, and they foresee that going through the wintertime. Especially if they're like me, they can leverage shipping and selling nationally. Therefore, they can actually take advantage of those markets where the season is still nice, like Heavy Metal Cycles down in Texas, or those in South Cal or in Florida. Their markets are just starting for cycling season because it is too dang hot during the summer. So they have a lot of winter riding opportunity. And there's a lot of snowbirds that do go to the southern states to do that kind of riding. Therefore, you're going to have an increase of sales, even though you're tucked up way north and you have the winterest of winters, you'll still be selling stuff through those eBay or online sale portals if you have that. So if you're getting into that and starting, and you're having success with your used products locally, and you're worried about the off season, definitely look into shipping. Bike flights is a cheap way to go to ship frames, bicycles, forks, and so forth, and all the other small stuff. You can just leverage the USPS priority mail, and also, I mean, you know, I hate to give it to them, but eBay is so huge that they're still a great platform to sell a lot of inventory. Case in point, I just sold a titanium Serrata frame and fork last night. On eBay. Yeah, I take the hit on a percentage, but I'm moving inventory, still selling things. And that is going to be shipped later today or first thing tomorrow. I don't think they're shipping today because of the holiday. But it's one of those things where if you're, and you don't have to dive in completely, you just start maybe with small parts and see how that moves for you, and then move up to maybe the frames and then maybe full bikes and that kind of thing. You can actually leverage that to help you get through winter. I've been doing this for years. I've already been a proof case of this. Like 2 years ago, when things were really getting kind of rough from bike sales and so forth, I was still selling used full bikes, and quite a few of them around Christmas time through into January, which carried me through to the spring. So it works. It's just how if it's going to work for your shop and that kind of thing. So looking at shops and going in 2026, it's going to be a lot more doubling down, like Precision e-bike, going to expand my floor space and bring in used and rentals. So he sees opportunities there in his market, which it is because I'm right next to him in the market. Like, okay, I can totally see that and help support that square footage and expand upon that within that new space. That's great. But a lot of shops are not expanding. They may be even shrinking or losing locations, scaling down. Because, well, with Trek and Specialized, they're probably not going to be opening up very many stores next couple years. If it is, it's going to be more leveraging and precise precision placement of retail. So it's not going to be like they were during COVID or before that even, their business model, which seemed to be to open up as many shops as possible. And when there's a decline in certain areas, just retract the ones that close, the ones that are not the markets that are not that great. Well, I find that business practice very hurtful to the cycling communities. It's not great because you got a shop and all of a sudden you don't. And where you had a shop, which was, I would say, let's just make up a name, Bob's Bike Shop. Well, Bob, he sold a Trek. Trek rode it for 2 years and realized this is not making enough money for them and cuts it. And all of a sudden that community no longer has a shop at all. Case in point, on the last chat, there was somebody that chimed in from Germany. And they worked at a Trek corporate store and they're closing a corporate store in Germany. And he was just thinking about doing himself something like me, like what I'm doing, like a small one-man band, one-person band doing either mobile or just a destination garage shop and helping community, establishing that community. And there's some other shops I've heard through my friend Bradley, the shop that he's been hanging out in Minneapolis. The owners got really squirrely. The staff is kind of like thinking of just doing their own thing, and but it's a bubble effect. Like it's disrupting all these different communities, cycling experience and so forth, which is not great, not great at all because it doesn't. The consistency is not there for the cyclists when they go and they're like, oh, that bike shop's gone. Now what? And they do the Google search and some people really are into cycling and they don't want to work on it themselves, although they can or just don't have the time to. They really rely on those trusted individuals to take care of their bikes and so forth. It's a service that, especially on the service side of it, people like to know their mechanic. Case in point, I do have people that drive a long distance to have me to work on their bikes, which is kind of crazy to think because I'm not like advertising in their markets per se, but they're seeing me here on YouTube and going, I want that guy to work on my stuff. And they, I have a couple of repeat customers. I have another gentleman coming by this Saturday, I believe, and I've worked on a couple of his bikes and he bought a new used one to him. He wants me to do the whole magic on it. So, those are the things that you'll see a lot more in your communities. For bike shops, there'll be yes, there's going to be quite a few that have to close doors. Some will surface up, And a lot of the corporates will stay closed because they're going to just wait out the storm until whatever that changes back to a different norm that we're in currently now. Because just service and used bikes does not support a corporate store and their dollars and their profit that they need or want to continue. So therefore, you're going to have a lot of independents like myself bubbling up, hopefully in your neck of the woods to be able to support your community, that kind of thing. That, or you're going to be learning how to work on your own stuff. But in that case, a lot of us have already gone that direction. A lot of your avid cyclists I just work on my own stuff, and that's why I'm watching you. I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's more than fine. I have no problem with that at all. But if you come across something that you have beyond your technical skills or tools, especially tools, because tools are expensive, and don't want to invest in a $300 tool to be used once, then you might rely on your local shop or mechanic to do those one-off little things. But anything, well, the whole rant is that 2026 is going to be a lot more of what we just saw this summer and this fall. A lot of service, a lot of used, e-bike repairs, keep things going, upcycle. We're a consuming society here in the United States, so we've been buying bikes like mad for the last 30 years and always being swayed by the Kool-Aid of the companies going, you need to buy this, the new thing. And we're just suckers for it. And we've been doing it, and people have garage full of bikes that haven't been touched in years that are in really good shape. So we have a built-in used inventory like no other, just waiting to be tapped into. And it has been tapped in a little bit over the years, especially during COVID, but now it's like whipped right back into that direction again. So not necessarily all full bikes, but frames, used parts, and so forth, and maybe some used depending on the price point. But that's where bike shops have an opportunity to continue to keep that rolling. And it looks like it's going to be that way going into the next year or two, as well as doubling down on service. So you're going to get better trained mechanics because the money's going to be there. They're going to invest more into that. And therefore, that provides more of a customer support for your community for service work, which is great, win-win. What also this is going to do is slap those big companies really hard in the face and go, and you need to provide products that actually the customers are needing and wanting. Not necessarily needing, lower end price points to get them into cycling and cultivate that cycling community because they basically ditched it. They're like, we'll let Walmart, Target take care of that market because we don't want them part of that. We just want to sell and build really high-end, fancy, nice bikes. Well, there's no more market that for them, so they're going to have to shift gears and start making those lower-end, entry-level bikes. That doesn't happen overnight. So that's going to take a year or two for them to go in that direction to offset that. There's already companies that are addressing that, which have been for the years. Examples are Fuji, Jameis, Kona. A lot of those companies have, Poseidon is one. They have those lower end price points and they're getting people into riding on okay, decent bikes, where the competitors like Trek, Schwin, and Giant, not Schwin, sorry, slipped there, Specialized, and Giant, and the Pond Holdings upper end bikes, they have just lost the mark on it, which they didn't care because they were making enough money. Now they're not making money, so they're going to be piping into that. We'll see if there's going to be a market that's going to support that. Eventually they will correct and listen to the actual true market and build bikes for that. But how long is that going to last after that in longevity? Like, what is their 5-year or 10-year plan? Because all that we're in the moment it's still, even though it feels like a long time, my God, it feels so long, and it feels like it's going to be going on for the next couple of years, which still feels like a long time. But in the grand scheme of things of the duration of bike companies, that's just a blip. Not a small blip per se, but it is something they're going to ride out, and don't excuse the pun, but they're going to ride through it and then come out of the other end and then go back to the super high-end stuff and craziness and all that. But in any case, we'll see. But some of those companies may not be around. They may not be able to afford or have enough bank account credit line to support them through this. Do I see a Trek or a Specialized or even Giant crash? Most likely not. But we've seen them crash before. Schwin's one. Right there, you can see the banner. Oh, and when you see them vertically, you can't see the banner. But got a banner like old Schwin, old school Schwin, right? Then, you talk about Blockbuster. Nobody thought Blockbuster would go out of business. Sports Authority. I can keep on going. Circuit City, Toys R Us, even though they're coming back, but very small. But, you get what my drift is. It's like even the biggest, this is the testing of those companies to the point of no other. Because talking to individuals in the bike industry that have been in and out of manufacturing and so forth over the years, they've seen little bits of this here and there, recessions and whatever, but they haven't seen everything all at once like this, and how insane it is, and how it's not predictable whatsoever. So, hey, we might be talking next week and be like, hey, everything's great. I got champagne and a private jet and everything's great. We're doing great in the cycling world. But most likely not. So, as much as we want to. But in any case, that's where we're looking at there. But how I see myself going into, I'm going to be doing a lot more service or more precise service work. Do a lot more available frames and parts, refurbished parts, and to support that community, and a few bikes here and there, and a few consignments for some close customers. Been doing that already. And then obviously, seeing me on YouTube and be leveraging more YouTube and videos and content and, tech videos, and try to build up my This Old Bike channel a little bit more for restorations of older bikes and so forth, so that it has a home for that. And, keep pushing forward of what the successes have been. And for my cycling community, they definitely need somebody working on their bikes, double checking everything that they currently are riding, and even the new bikes that are coming in that they're buying either direct or rolling off of a corporate store showroom floor still need some TLC. Higher level, I would say, new out of the box tune-up-ish, making sure everything is correct, like a correct bike build. Because the bike builds at your corporate stores, nothing against them, they're just doing volume. So there alludes, things are going to be overlooked or maybe not given as much attention as it should. And that becomes a little bit problematic for the consumer down the line, especially if you're buying it direct to consumer, where Specialized and Trek have started doing so, as well as Canyon. You're going to see a lot more issues of being set up correctly and, tune up, because, they all want to get your money on the tune up. So they're not going to do the greatest perfect job on the bike build. It's I kind of feel like I'm seeing that. And, if you do a really good tune up, and what I've been finding, that my tune-up's been holding for 1 or 2 or 3 years, depending on how much riding you do. For just general maintenance yourself, it still holds that tune-up. Although the industry standard is saying is you need a tune-up every year. So, for safety perspectives, sure. But reality of it, probably not. So, it's one of those things. But in any case, coming up on lunchtime, I'm going to go for a ride. Yeah. Look into the chat here, and HB, thank you for joining in. Yeah, hi to you too. And Klein and Bontrager are all gone. Yeah, Klein retired. Gary Klein retired. I wish he stuck around, but he was an older cat. He did his time. He didn't make any 29er mountain bikes. It was all 26ers. The road bikes are really cool. They were launching on the last year a full carbon Klein, which I had my hands on one as a used market. Super cool. But needless to say, they used a lot of their technologies and learnings from Gary Klein and are still folding that into the Trek line a little bit. And I believe Specialized has stole some of that. I want to say still, let's say borrowed or implemented that within their gravel series bike with the Verge. When they first came out, we had some cool little fancy different welds to their aluminum versions, which kind of felt a little more like a Klein kind of feel. But in any case, that was pretty cool. And the Bontrager, well, Bontrager was mostly on parts and everything for the last 2 decades. His really cool stuff, in my opinion, was when they were still making steel frames, and a lot of it out of the Santa Cruz facility, or Santa Cruz, well, that's where Bontrager was originally. And they were making the nice high-end privateer frames and OR frames there with nice steel. But the thing is although that the Bontrager and the Kleins have gone in the yesteryear, what are we seeing today? Well, we're seeing high-end titanium still being like not too expensive. The Linsky frames are actually not too bad for titanium. But the general market of pricing has gone up. So if you're looking at a $3,000 or $4,000 bike to buy new, there's a Moots or a Dean or a Lightspeed. For like the steel realm of it, Steiner out of California, they're making steel and aluminum frames and also titaniums too. And you have like those smaller niche companies like Fairlight making some really cool Reynolds tubing by territory from Reynolds for them to make, and geometries and all those kinds of things. Although you can still dive into the used market and find some old gems to fix up and ride, and which are still very relevant to today's standard of riding and quality and enjoyment. Because quite honestly, the 98% of us just want recreational fun bikes to ride. Then there's the racing portion of it. Yeah, it might be a little bit bigger percentage than that. But realistically though, even though majority of those racers don't need that high end of stuff to do what they want to do, and there alludes that there's still a bunch of bikes that are older, that's why I'm in business, that picks up gems like this, and you can have a great time and works just as well and still have all those great experiences while riding the bike. And sometimes it's not the bike, it's where you're riding that makes you have that euphoria moment and having that stress relief time and healthy just to keep you going, right? So, in my opinion, there's, the yesterday's brands are gone. You enjoy them. You can pick some up in the used market maybe, but there's some really cool stuff that's been coming out that really haven't been brought to light yet and haven't really, opened up into a lot of markets and opportunities. And I think the shakeup, what we're seeing right now, is going to provide some of those companies to really shine and really get in front of a lot of those other markets to say, hey, we have some really cool stuff that's handmade or custom made or closer to custom, and you can do those kinds of things and really have a stellar ride. I mean, my experience is now, bikes out of the box, if you're buying $5,000, you're still going to have a lot of adjustments to it. Stem, bars, seat posts, seats, all those contact points. If you can buy that without swapping stuff out and reselling with a whole wall full of extra stuff or a bin full of extra stuff, that just cuts the price down of just getting exactly what you need. It just starts with a really good bike fit to begin with. And that's where the investment lift is. But from there on out, you can figure out what bike frame fits you the best, what geometry. You can reach out to these companies, go, hey, this is my fit numbers, and they get what in your line will fit the best, and that you can kind of really narrow the path of getting the best bike possible for the experience of riding, especially if you're spending that larger dollar amount versus walking in and on an impulse buy a $6,000 gravel bike, which I've had customers do, and yet they're still coming to see me to do those fittings and so forth to make sure they get the even better experience out of the ride, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of opportunities for shops to pick up slack and give a better customer experience, also community experience, and dive into those communities. Because that's where it all began, and that's where it all is going to end. So, in any case, that's my very long soapbox. And hope you enjoyed the podcast version of this. And yeah, it's definitely lunchtime for me in Colorado. Oh, Susan chimed in here. What is your thoughts on 3D printing titanium frames? We're going to be carrying one model like that next year. Interesting. I have no problem with 3D printing. I mean, I'm not sure. I have not really looked into how it's made and the process of doing that. I mean, I think Silco is making 3D printing titanium derailleur hangers, which is, obviously not the whole bike frame, but it's, it's a technological ability. If they can manipulate the tubing the way they need to and strength-wise, I'm all for it. I mean, people always kind of, any kind of new technology comes out, there's a little bit of nervous factor, of course, because is it going to last? Is it going to hold up? Are we going to have a whole bunch of warranties? This is the bad idea at all. And heaven forbid, hopefully nobody gets hurt. But if they do all the correct testing and so forth on that particular process, I mean, hydroforming was a whole new thing of doing, tubing thing, and that's where Klein became huge back in the 80s and the 90s, and the different materials and so forth. Yeah, he had some fail rates, and some frames didn't do great on design, but they worked through that. And I think 3D printing, it's here. It's been here for a while, and it's just getting better. It's up there with AI. So if you have an AI combination with a 3D printer for a titanium frame, it could be a total win-win. Especially if you could really plug in all those, geometry pieces, and if it's a company that can leverage 3D printing of a titanium frame with just like your fit specs, put it in, boom, you got a frame, cuts the cost down, and provides a better bike and product for the customer at the end. So I look forward to seeing more stuff like that. I'm always geeked out on kind of that technology. Just really haven't watched very much. I've watched the 3D printing of steel materials and so forth, but we'll see. But then again, there's the I still have that respect, and I enjoy seeing also those handcrafted. The picture of Richie like welding frames up. I just like the craftsmanship, the attention to detail, those kinds of things. Can that be mimicked at a 3D printing? I'm not sure. But we'll see. Definitely we'll be finding out, because the industry is always going to be trying to find something a little bit cheaper than a day to bring in the highest quality product for a lower price, for either profitability for the company itself, which is always the case, also provide a lower price point to be competitive against this other market. Will it take away or push away shops like Black Sheep or Moots or Lightspeed? Most likely not. If anything, they will be investing into that themselves at some point. So we'll see. Oh, wow. That's they do have hey, everybody's leveraging AI, including myself. Titles, thumbnails, verbiage, all that. I mean, obviously it's not perfect. You got to audit it, of course, but it cuts down a lot of time to be able to produce or do more stuff. So, come on, it's, that's where allude to 14,000 jobs lost, according to Amazon, because of AI. So, but then again, that 14,000 of individuals can leverage AI to become competitors of Amazon. So, did they just destroy themselves? Leave you that with food for thought. Oh, cut all those people. Now they know all the insights, and now if they leverage it just right, boom, they may come up with a better, shinier idea, like Netflix that took out Blockbuster. Just leave you with that thought. I mean, get your head around all that, rolling change. Yeah, it's different, of course, but there's It's one thing. There's one thing that's always going to happen, and that is change, of course. And got to roll with it. But anyway, I enjoy what I'm doing. I love working on older bikes. I like working on newer bikes. I gripe about some of the technological advances. But in any case, I'm old fuddy-duddy in a garage. So I have the right to my opinion and being grumpy on some things. And you'll see a couple of videos come over soon about the newer product that I'm not so happy with. But in any case, it still does get people on bikes and do riding and enjoy the experience the cycling is done for me and a lot of those out there. And it saved a lot of people's there's a lot of people that say that saved their life, right? Either got into, like a former racer, he lived in an area where drugs and gangs are very prominent, and he got into cycling, got into a cycling team, and ended up touring around the world racing. And it changed his life to a point where if it wasn't for cycling, he would be like all the other people that he sees that still live there or that may have died there with addiction and so forth. For me, it got me out of my punk rock phase, even though I'm still a punk rocker inside. But you know, I'm clean in the sense, like I never went down the route of addiction. It gave me a purpose, gave me a direction, and from there, here I am back, full circle, trying to help a community, to provide opportunities for those to get into cycling, to see the benefits of it, and get you out of the house and do some great exercise. And on the flip side of it, like my old buddy Kirk out in Greeley, I have a video up on him. That old guy, he number one, since he retired, has become a huge cycling advocate in his community in Greeley, and gotten so many people into cycling because he was passionate about cycling. And he's he's overweight, does not have a cycling physique, but he just rides all the time and really has become a part of that community where he's inspired a lot of people to ride. On top of that, he suffered a heart attack in March. And because of partially of him identifying those issues early, but also the doctors did say, since he has been cycling quite a bit and doing a lot of cardiovascular workout over that period of time, the heart attack was very minimal, minor, compared to a massive heart attack. So heart health, mental health, from my age on, I know there's quite a few older individuals out there watching this, and it's like, you can contest, it's like, it may have saved your life younger, but it might continue to save your life later. So, in any case, I'll leave you with that, with a positive uplift of, it's nice in your neck of the woods, like it is here, 70 degrees Fahrenheit in my neck of the woods. Please go for a ride. And thanks again for hanging out with me in the garage and listening to me jibber jabber and ramble about topics to bike stuff and what have you. And I hope you have an enjoyable rest of your week, and I hope the holiday season that comes up for you is a very enjoyable one. It's going to be fun for us. It's just really busy. It's really busy. And just going to go through the chat and do a shout out. So Susan, thank you for chiming in. Appreciate it. From listening into my little podcast here. HB, thank you for chiming in about the Klein and Bontrager. Those are always fun to talk about. And of course, my e-bike counterpart of Fort Collins, Josh at Precision E-Bike. He's really good. Hey, Chip, come here. My little puppy just came in from a walk. Come here, Chip. In any case, Bob M., thank you for chatting, and let me know about the chats and the dual chats. It's kind of interesting. Heavy Metal Cycles, I know you jumped off, but I hope you had a good day. The rest of your day there. And originally, Dave, thank you. Oh! Chip's leash got on my tripod. Anyway, it's a whole bunch of fun. So all those who jumped in Idaho Fat Bikes, thank you. Fact Tire Bikes, thank you for chiming in too. Hope you had a great experience, and until next time, if it's Tuesday in your neck of the woods, it's Shop Talk Tuesday. You guys have a wonderful day.
You do an Al Roker thing in your neck of the woods?
Is that? Oh yeah, I guess it is Al Roker. I got that from Al Roker, right? Or something like that. How was the walk with Chippers?
Fine. Like surprisingly warm out here.
Yeah, I'll be definitely in my shorts and short sleeve jersey for the ride.
Yeah, are you getting hot in there?
Yeah, it's getting toasty in here too.